This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, April 15th, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will have the latest Iowa Ag News headlines, and then I will be joined by Mitch Roth of Farmers Business Network to learn about how the El Nino and La Nina weather patterns are going to affect Iowa farmers this growing season. It's time now for our closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined by Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Curt, kind of throughout the whole day, we had a tale of two markets, really. It looked like the grains were doing pretty well, or doing pretty poorly, while the livestock side doing a little bit better. Is that how we closed today?
Yeah, pretty well mixed bag. The grains was a little disappointing. I think we going home there Friday, a little concerned about the Middle East and what type of news would occur there. It looks like the air defense system for Israel held up this time, so hopefully that's the case for them. But corn down 3 to 4 cents today. Soybeans down 9 to 15 cents. The wheat market, Chicago down 3 to 4 cents. So hopefully we got the negative news or the lower prices priced in here as we go through the week. Export inspections report was within the trade range. We shipped out 52.4 million bushels of corn, 15.9 million bushels of beans, and we shipped out 20.2 million bushels of wheat. Wheat was at the upper end, so we're moving out what we sold. Did see a sale of 165,000 tons of corn to Mexico. They continue to be our best customer. 135 was old crop and 30 was new crop corn purchases. So like to see the sales, likes to see the shipments. Kind of took some risk off going into midday here. We saw the funds sell about 3,400 contracts of wheat, 6,700 contracts of beans, and 7,300 contracts of corn being sold. So they continue to have a negative bias. Last Friday, we went up to some resistance levels, failed, and now we're sort of drifting back down to the lower end. So hopefully we can have some recovery here the rest of the week. Main news is a little better forecast. It's kind of extreme. We're seeing the corn planters run. I know here in central Illinois, west, we're seeing some fairly good activity. Here, Illinois on east, kind of hit and miss for the most part. This afternoon's planting progress report will be a little bit more active. We're kind of looking around that 7% complete as a nation. That's where we were about a year ago. Then about 5% is the average estimate as a nation. And for beans, we're right in that 2, 3, 4% complete. A lot of beans went in, and some of these beans are starting to poke through the ground that's been in the ground for a while here. So that's where the focus is going to be now is the planting progress. A clear forecast today and tomorrow, a little rain and cooler weather as we move into midweek and into the weekend. Guys are geared up. They're rolling pretty strong right now. NOPA crush report, 196.4 million bushels. That's about a million bushels below the trade expectations, but gosh, that's still a record. So we're seeing an aggressive crush pace that's making up for what we're seeing in loss on the exports side of the equation there. So it'll be a delicate balancing act as the crush will hopefully pick up what we're giving up on the export side of it. The other news, looking forward here, particularly for you guys in Iowa there, a chance of some moisture. They said big rain event, 1.5 to 2 inches. Hopefully that's good for the drier areas to give you a little bit more moisture to work with. So the weather guys are going to get the play here as we move forward. The other thing probably keep an eye on is the soybean meal market. Soybean meal had a good pop here last week. Now we're back and filling. So if you're a livestock producer needing to book some meal needs, I'd keep an eye on that soybean meal market here as we move through the next week or two.
And Curt, we would welcome that moisture if you could go ahead and send that our way, because we were talking about it in the office today, already looking pretty dry here in Des Moines, which for this time of year, usually greening up at this point. Let's switch over to the other side of the ag marketplace in the livestock complex. What do we see there today?
Yeah, I've mowed my yard 3 times, so we're kind of fortunate right here. We're not too wet, too dry. But yeah, the livestock sector, it as we mentioned there in the key takeoff, corn, beans, and wheat was low, but the cattle, the fast finished up 220 to 230. Feeders up 380 to 400. So we're trying to get some giddy up there. Main thing from here on out, see how this clearance goes. Get this weather cooperating, cookout feature. We got Mother's Day coming up. We got Memorial Day weekend coming up. So overall, we're looking for some of this demand to pick up. Hogs mixed. Boy, those hogs took it on the chin last week. When you take last week's high and today's low, they bounced off the low pretty good here today. We're about $9.5 off last week's high. So a little bit oversold. Hopefully the livestock can hold in there quite well and keep that feed usage high, Mark.
Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net, our guest here today. Curt, thanks so much for the time. Now, for our listeners who would like to get more marketing information, how can they get in contact with agmarket.net?
1-800-779-1515. Go to agmarket.net. As I mentioned before, click on Intel. And the significance of Monday, clicking on there, we've got our fundamental wrap up. So they'll give a fundamental outlook here Monday afternoon. So take a peek at it.
Lots of great information from the team at agmarket.net. Curt, thanks for the time and have a great rest of your week.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you to Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's turn now to the closing numbers, which can be found under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
May corn closes down 4 even at 431.5. May soybeans down 15 3/4 at 1158 1/4. May soybean meal down $5.90 at $338.50. May soybean oil down 42 cents at $45.47. Chicago wheat down 4 1/4 at $551 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 5 3/4 at $637 even. Kansas City hard red wheat down 5 3/4 at $584 even. And May oats up 6 1/4 at $357 3/4. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.40 at $180.30. April feeder cattle up $1.95 at $239.55. May lean hogs up 45 cents at $94.32. May pork cutout up 15 cents at $101.40. And Class 3 milk up 4 cents at $15.45.
That's our ag market coverage for today. It is time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. Up next, it is the latest Iowa Ag News headlines.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for the latest Iowa Ag News headlines. Senators Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, and Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois, are calling on the administration to permit nationwide E15 sales this summer. They sent a letter underscoring the geopolitical importance of uninterrupted biofuel access, and they noted that the president directed the Environmental Protection Agency to issue summertime waivers in 2022 and 23. Quote, enabling the year-round sale of E15 helped allow our energy supply to address extreme and unusual fuel supply circumstances caused by the war in Ukraine that are affecting all regions of the nation, end quote. To counter these influences, we must pursue an all-of-the-above energy strategy, which includes leveraging domestic biofuels, end quote. They also said, as previous temporary waivers have proven, permitting the sale of higher blends like biofuels, for example, E15, through the 2024 summer driving season bolsters domestic fuel supply, lowers consumer costs at the pump, and promotes the environmental benefits of American biofuels and modern agriculture. Also on today's show, I'm joined by Mitch Roth of Farmers Business Network. FBN recently released a report detailing how El Nino will impact U.S. farmers this year. This growing season, farmers set to face a unique combination of El Nino in the spring and early summer, and then a transition to a La Nina pattern in the late summer and early fall. Mitch Roth is regional proprietary agronomist with Farmers Business Network, and he says farmers could see a wide range of outcomes this growing season.
One interesting part about this 2024 growing season is that we're still seeing some lingering effects of El Nino. It's fading as we enter spring, giving us a small normal season in the early part of the summer here, and then we should be transitioning into a La Nina year. So we can have some opposite effects of what the El Nino brought us, with some cooler, wetter conditions as opposed to the warm, dry conditions you've been experiencing in Iowa.
That period of normal weather between El Nino and La Nina not expected to last very long.
So it doesn't necessarily transition this quickly, and I'm not a meteorologist by training. I'll put a caveat on that. But my understanding is there's usually more often a few years in between these different cycles, the La Nina versus the El Nino. So a little bit of a unique year in that we're experiencing that transition a little bit more quickly.
The tail end of the El Nino pattern has given farmers a chance to get into fields early this spring.
The El Nino weather cycles that we've been experiencing throughout most of the winter has led to a more mild winter across much of the Corn Belt and throughout the Midwest, a lot drier than normal as well. And I know that has excited a lot of folks in trying to get out into the field earlier and push those planting dates even earlier. There can be some concerns with that type of warm, dry conditions, even in the end of winter, early spring. If there's not enough moisture in your area, you've got to really monitor your planting depth for corn and soybeans to make sure that that seed gets enough water and moisture to actually start the germination process and really get up and out of the ground. The sooner it can get up and out of the ground, the less likely you'll be to experience some of the early season soil-borne diseases.
He says by studying the weather and referencing past data, farmers can start to build their plan now for the growing season.
So thankfully, we have a lot of weather data dating back for quite a few years, and that includes data from El Nino years and La Nina years. And the good news is for corn is that in either of these types of weather patterns, either El Nino or La Nina, there tends to be a slightly higher than average yield, anywhere from, I believe it's like 4 to 6 bushels per acre in either type. And we're experiencing both, so it should be good news for corn this year. Soybeans, there isn't typically a huge impact in La Nina years, which is what we're entering. However, the warm, dry conditions might allow you to plant soybeans a little bit earlier in the season, and there's lots of data out there showing that soybeans can do really well if they're planted early, and they adapt really well. So it looks like it should be a pretty average, if not slightly above average year for yields for corn and soybeans.
Thank you to Mitch Roth of Farmers Business Network for joining today's show. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Dustin Huffman, Riley Smith, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.